This is a Foundry Media podcast.
Welcome back to Season 1 of Vibe Austin. I'm your host, Mark, with my co-host, Dan.
Hey, y'all.
Austin might be known around the globe for being the live music capital of the world, but anyone who's lived here for some time knows that Austinites value community just as much as we love our live music. Helping out the people in our community, whether that community is created by work, music, or just a zip code, is a big part of Austin's culture. With almost 6,000 nonprofits in the Austin metro area alone, or about 3 nonprofits for every 1,000 people, it's safe to say that we're dedicated to giving back. And today we're excited to talk to 2 women who have united Austin's passions for music and paying it forward under one powerful mission.
We're thrilled to welcome founder and musician Christine Albert and executive director Shannon Moody to the show today. Together they are representing Swan Songs, which is a nonprofit that fulfills musical last wishes by bringing private live music concerts to individuals who are nearing the end of their life. This service is provided at no cost to the family while still supporting Austin's music community. Before we jump in, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Austin Title, Vista Lending, House of Strube, and Nest Financial, for helping us share the important work happening in Austin. Check out these businesses in our community and in our show notes for more information. Now, without further ado, here's episode 4 of Vibe Austin with Shannon and Christine of Swan Songs.
Say you wanna know how deep my love is. You say you long to hear those words of mine. So I ask, how deep is the ocean? How deep is the color in your eye? A simple glance, your eyes are mine, and I lose my breath and move and wonder. My words fall flat in all my lines until the tide pulls me under. You say you wanna know how deep my love is. You say you long to hear those words of mine. So I ask, how deep is the ocean? How deep is the color in your eye?
Awesome. Christine, Shannon, I was about to say Susan.
Call me anything.
That's my sister, Christine and Susan.
There we go.
Welcome to Vibe Austin.
Thank you.
Love having you guys on the show and so excited to talk about all the great things you guys have been up to for the last few years.
Yeah, last few decades.
Decades plus.
Christine's case for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Will you talk a little bit to the audience individually about your backgrounds and what brought you to Austin?
Sure.
We'll start with one.
Shall I talk about yours and you talk about mine? We probably know each other's story by
That's a good
now.
test, yeah.
Music brought me to Austin, Austin music, and in 1982 from Santa Fe, New Mexico, where I had lived since high school, originally from upstate New York, and then went to the mountains as quickly as I could. But music, I was a musician in Santa Fe, and the music that I was playing and the artists that I was opening for were all very Austin-centric. Sleep at the Wheel and Jerry Jeff Walker and Delbert McClinton. So it was a natural path to come here to get closer to the music.
Yeah.
And there was just more opportunity here. And Austin was a cool city that was bigger than Santa Fe, but not too much out of the personality and the culture of Santa Fe.
Is it your first choice? I mean, because there's also like other music cities and.
Yeah, it was my first choice because it happened organically. I hadn't been to Nashville. I knew New York City because my aunt lived there. I'd been to LA a couple times, but that would have been too big a leap.
Yeah.
Culturally, I just didn't see myself living in a big city like that. And musically, mostly musically, it's like this is where the music was that I resonated with and that I was performing. And so I started doing, sessions, singing harmony for B.W. Stevenson and Jerry Jeff Walker, and, had opportunity here because it fit with my musical style.
Really nice. Love
Super
it.
great. And, like you said, the Austin type of music, it just was your wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
And it's just exciting for us to have you here, particularly because, one, your roots go back so far in Austin, which is awesome. I'm really curious to hear your perspective on the city back in 1982 through today. And then also the tying of two so Austin things together, which is music and nonprofit. And I think the Swan Songs mission is just so amazing. And so super excited to talk about that as well. But I love how these two major parts of Austin come tied together just through y'all today. So thanks for being here.
Yeah.
100%. Your turn.
Well, I actually came just a year after the very common story that I came to UT.
Nice.
Yeah.
Freshman year at UT, and did go elsewhere to find a job, but then got back as fast as I could. Came back in '89.
Okay.
Had both my kids here, so I love that my kids can say they're born and raised in Austin.
Yeah.
Me too.
Because that's kind of uncommon,
Same.
right?
Yeah, same here.
Born in Houston, but so always been in Texas.
Yes.
But there's something about Austin that people either want to get here or want to stay here or come back here, and I was definitely one of those.
I want to interrupt you to say I've decided that a true test of an Austinite is if you've created Austinites. So we all
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we made Austinites. So,
Totally.
So we get to say,
That's right. And I do feel, I feel very, I feel ownership
Criteria
over.
for the show.
Yeah.
How long you been here, and do you have
Did
an
you
Austin?
create
Did you
a
create an
real
Austin?
Are you the,
And the
are
dog-
you
the dogs and
leader?
cats
Are you
count
the
too?
leader of Austin?
Right.
Animals count. Yeah. So, and when I was, I was lucky enough to be able to stay home with little babies and, just did all the Austin stuff and did, swim team and soccer and baseball and just was immersed in that. Always interested in Austin politics, and then started working when my kids were in elementary school, and always knew nonprofit is where I wanted to go. So and feel so lucky to have, I hope this is kind of my last hurrah. I hope I'll be at Swan Songs till I retire.
Yeah.
I do. I just, the mission is just like goes straight to your heart. And so.
Well, let's
really
talk
lucky.
about the mission.
for
I think
the
the
people who
audience
don't
needs to
know.
know who Swan Song is and what you guys are doing.
Swan Songs is a Austin-based nonprofit that fulfills musical last wishes. So if someone is nearing the end of their life with a terminal illness or just because of age, they can request their favorite style of music from us, and we will facilitate a private concert for them in their home or their care facility with their family and friends. If they're fortunate enough to have family and friends around, some of our concerts are really for one person and a nurse because there isn't anyone else. But they can request whatever music is really meaningful for them. So it's not us deciding what to take. So our requests have been much more diverse than we ever anticipated. It was founded in 2005. I had the original spark of the idea in 1992 when I was asked to sing for a fan that was dying at home, and his wife invited me to come sing, and it was so powerful, and I thought this makes so much sense.
Wow.
When you can no longer go hear your favorite music, bring it to them. What I didn't anticipate were requests for Lithuanian accordion and Japanese music and Hungarian fiddle and
mariachi.
It's just like all this styles of music. But of course it makes sense because people's
it's their
musical
It's what they grew up
affinity is so unique to who they are. And then it's so powerful because they're at the very end of their life.
Right.
Kind of words and being able to articulate or move around are fading and dissipating. But the music connects them with
In a different
their
way.
family history, their culture, the time in their life when they were vibrant and alive and going out to hear music.
Right.
And, so it connects to an essence at a really powerful time.
Wow.
I'd like to say that I'm so grateful for you doing this, and I'm admittedly kind of melancholy today. It would have been my brother's 49th birthday this past Sunday. And I lost him just over 12 years ago. And so this just, it hits, and it hits deep. And I appreciate that you mentioned another, big part of an Austin story, which was this happened organically for you. It wasn't like you sit down and scribbled out a business plan.
Right.
Nobody, nonprofit's a business plan, right?
Yeah.
But at the, you being a legitimate, accomplished musician, seeing this need, bringing this to people, it especially this week, it means a lot to me.
Wow.
Thank you for saying that.
Thanks for saying that.
Well, she was the only staff person for how many years? 10, 15, 20? Lots and lots of years.
I do want to go back.
Except for my husband.
Unpaid staff person.
My husband and I were the...
I do want to go back because you shared with us it hit you as you were performing, but then you also had this calling. And that you mentioned to us in our last when we were chatting a while back. Could you talk about the calling? Because I think that's important as far as Austin goes.
Yeah, I noticed. You noticed I said 1992 was the concert, and then 2005 is when I went down to the courthouse and filed the paperwork.
Right.
And in that time, we did it. My co-founder of the original program, Gay Logan, and I did it very informally. Had some musicians that were volunteering, and worked with a few different nonprofits. Craig Hella Johnson from Conspirari kind of helped guide it for a while, but it kept calling to me to make it more formalized, partly because I wanted to be able to compensate the musicians.
Right.
I really didn't want it to be would you do us a favor?
Right.
I wanted it to have a lot of structure and to acknowledge and celebrate the value that the musicians bring. Plus, as a professional musician, I knew what a struggle it is. And every 3 hours that you take to go do something, it would really helps if you're compensated during that time. So I didn't want the families to have to pay or the facilities because they're also very taxed. So I kept thinking, I guess I have to start a nonprofit.
Got to raise money.
And I kept avoiding it because I had no idea how. But it became this sort of constant sense of not fulfilling my destiny in almost like an ache in my solar plexus. And I remember one night coming home from a gig in Houston really late and driving on I-35 and looking at the Austin skyline and feeling really sad and feeling like I almost wanted to apologize because I knew there was something of great value for our community and that I was supposed to be the vehicle for it. Right. And I was still avoiding it. And then I finally dove in 2005. And partly because my husband had an injury the year before and the community really stepped up to help us. And I wanted to give back. So I took some of the money that was raised and put it towards Swan Songs expenses on the front end. And we created the nonprofit. And I got rid of that feeling. I woke up with a lot of other feelings. Anxiety, commitments,
fear,
it's important.
learning curve.
When you're afraid, it's important. But that's an awesome part of it. An Austin entrepreneur story as well as this. You're compelled to give back to the community that's given to you. I have the exact same experience. And I think it's unique to Austin. We're not the only town, but I just hear it time and time and time again. From whom much is given, much will be required. And I feel like there's an abundance here. There's just this beautiful culture that we wanted to create a podcast to talk about that does compel you to sort of say, oh, you got to step up. You got to be a part of this. Not a taker, but a contributor. So I love that.
Austin is so philanthropic. It's, and I know a lot of cities are, but I feel like Austin's a little special.
Will you talk
we all think Austin's special.
I know.
Will you talk a little bit about your journey in the nonprofit world? Because I think that's important as well.
Absolutely. So, kind of organically too, right? I started as a volunteer and I was lucky enough to serve on a few board of directors, Planned Parenthood, back when Austin Children's Museum was on Fifth Street, that little tiny.
I was going to ask you when you were talking about
my daughter. I took my daughter there a few times.
Yes, with Stuffy with those.
Foods.
Yes, the little Whole Foods, and then Stuffy with the gross intestines that you can pull out and everything.
I didn't remember that one.
Yes, it was kind of gross, but it was awesome. So and kind of cut my teeth learning how to do that, just volunteering learning that way. And then started at actually when Center for Battered Women was merging with Austin Rape Crisis Center to become Safe Place. So, I mean, I felt like I was on the precipice of these really cool organizations as they were merging. So kind of got to learn just by watching, and then jumped in and was a fundraiser for my first 15, 20 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And raised money for Austin Film Society, for Planned Parenthood. And then an organization was coming from Minneapolis called Jeremiah Program. They also wanted to grow.
I remember that one, yeah.
And so, 2-generation support for single moms. My youngest was just going to college. I was like, okay, ready to take on a huge project. I can do this. And also knowing how lucky we are that they were able to have people help them through that college process. So dove into that and did that almost 11 years before it was like, okay, they're rocking and rolling. I need a new project. I need something exciting. And somebody told me about Swan Songs. And I said, well, let me meet Christine, because if we don't vibe.
Right. Vibe.
No, I was going to say, okay, didn't mean to use the word, but.
If there's not an Austin vibe.
Right.
Exactly. Well, I knew. So actually, we went and had a coffee at Mozart's.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
And I was like, I remember I called the friend I was like, oh, yeah, it's perfect. I mean, I adore her. The cause hits me. It's, we can do this. So.
Yeah. I'd like to do a little shout out. You mentioned Safe Place. My earliest roots in Austin, nonprofit and philanthropy, was with Austin Children's Shelter.
Yes.
And Kelly White, the badass that she
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, she's a good
I
friend
was
of
on the
mine.
board
good.
when we hired Kelly.
Oh, nice.
And I was just a
Yeah.
youngster, and it's funny, and we were great friends.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
we actually just had
I
dinner
worked with
a
Kelly.
couple weeks ago.
I created a fundraiser when I was very young, professional, up and coming in the Austin business world. And we were Flashback, and we were targeting specifically young professionals.
Yeah.
So I ran that event for 11 years.
Oh my gosh,
that was
that's
my
cool.
passion project.
Well, remember
Yeah.
the walk for Safe Lives?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my
Nice.
first,
yeah.
entree there too.
Awesome.
My first philanthropy work in Austin was also Austin Rape Crisis Center.
Nice.
Okay.
And I had just moved here, and I was a rape survivor coming from Santa Fe, very recent, and had been helped there, and I wanted to give back. So I got involved with the Austin Rape Crisis
you were brave
Center.
and deep
And
individual.
Totally.
I did
End of life
produce
and-
some concerts
know,
for
right?
them, annual concerts, and then I was involved when it was merging also.
Yeah.
So that's when I first heard about Shannon,
Oh, wow.
and we knew the same people as that was. One of the things I love about Shannon coming on is also her experience with Jeremiah Program being a chapter of a national organization, because we're creating a model for other communities to create a Swan Songs of their own.
Okay.
So she has experience being part of a larger organization, and we're setting up a structure that's different from that, but informed by her experience.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes
And
sense.
That's helpful.
so we've kind of both been involved in nonprofits as they merge and evolve and
That's a big
change and
Step in that evolution.
Two
Yeah.
things that came to mind when you were talking. One is the circles that you guys were around, which brings us back to Austin. Austin is like
Yeah.
this big city, but it's
thought
all
the same.
small community. You're thinking
Right.
the
I was
same
thinking
thing.
the same.
Yeah.
You travel outside Austin, people are like, Austin, oh, do you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it seems like a long shot, but usually we do.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's
actually
crazy.
do.
I feel like half the time it's like,
Yeah.
I do.
yeah.
yeah, it's fun. It's really fun.
And the second thing, we have this thing. I'm not sure we mentioned this, but it's like Austin trivia.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. Oh god.
Oh, that's
I'm
awesome.
terrible at
baby.
trivia. It's just
Awesome trivia.
terrible at trivia.
So I thought
that
that the trivia question could be how many nonprofits there is in
Oh, I
Austin.
love it.
Oh,
Thanks
wow.
for saving me. 'Cause I didn't come prepared.
you know.
Well, it's funny because when we chatted earlier, I knew it was over 4,000. I was like, that might be a really old number. And it is.
Yeah. Wow.
It's like, I think over 5,500, but that's not counting educational institutions, hospital,
wow,
there's so
yeah.
many more. I think there's
Wow.
over 10,000 if you count all of the things that
Wow.
are actually not for profit.
Wow.
And then
But-
if you count all the musicians who are nonprofit
Right.
entities of their own.
Right.
Yeah, so it is, and I didn't dive deep enough to know how that compares to other
Right.
cities
Oh,
our
good
size.
point, Good point.
But-
Maybe we'll have something in the show notes. because
Yeah.
I think that's
I
so
do feel
interesting.
like it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Feels
Well, we
sad
were
we
so
are.
impressed with that stat that we've been talking about it ever since. And so the
Yeah.
fact that that's even an outdated number, I mean, it's staggering. I
Yeah, I
mean,
think,
it
on-
speaks to Austin's vibe, man.
It really
I know
does.
that Catherine will get it on the show notes for us.
Yeah.
So we'll get an accurate number so that
Right.
at least for the time being,
And
it'll be
relative to
it'll be a
other
good
cities.
it'll be a
Yeah.
good trivia question.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's like if you look at the population, I was impressed with that. It's like
Yeah.
for every 1,000 people, there's a nonprofit.
Right.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I bet it's more,
I
like
know.
you said, and that's kind of under the radar. Hey, speaking of population and per capita, we got to talk about food.
Yes.
That's my
love
attempt at a
food.
segue for something a little, kind of fun. We're so deep, and it's such important work that y'all do. But I'm like, well, what if we take it up a notch to
Food.
night out? Where's where are your must goes? Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'm going to direct the question to you guys because we don't say our favorites
All the time.
often. But
Yeah.
do you guys have a favorite hamburger spot? That question was asked to me the other day. I was like, I
That's a
don't
hard
know.
one.
Yeah, we talk so
Yeah.
much in generality of like, I have my favorite
Tacos for
spots,
sure, but like,
Yeah.
Yeah. There's actually, I can't remember the name of it because it's brand new and it's a food truck.
food trucks are the best.
Right.
on South Congress, just past Stastny on
Okay.
the right.
Okay.
And it's awesome burgers. And I
Nice.
can't, it's a guy's name, but he just opened up in the last 6 months or so. And my husband brought a couple home recently.
Yeah.
And it was really,
All right,
really
well,
good.
he needs a plug.
So if you
Exactly.
go to like
I'd love
We'll
that.
put it in
Twin
the show notes.
Liquors.
Yeah, because Pool
CBN
Burger doesn't
Pool-
need a plug.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah.
They're doing fine.
Yeah.
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 Right when you say burgers, Huts just springs into my
Yeah.
mind.
Okay, that's what I was
I
going
know.
to say.
Was
and I'm a
sad
little
to see
sad.
it close.
Yeah.
Event finally, like many things do in Austin. That's a whole other show.
Yeah.
Closures, right? But they're still at the airport.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
So if you
I
really,
didn't know
really
that.
are craving those super thick, huge onion rings with the
Yeah.
cornmeal, and
It's the only time I use ketchup.
right?
Is in
Yeah.
those big fat
Oh,
wow.
Huts onion
So
rings.
go
Love
to the
them.
airport, fly somewhere, anywhere, just to get a Huts hamburger because
Yeah.
they're still
That's a
there.
good
And
idea.
pleased to-
I'm actually
pleased to
traveling
still see
tomorrow. I
them.
might have to do that,
And
and it's right around
let-
So
Yeah.
lunchtime.
let us know.
Huts
I'll
was
think
for
about
me
you guys.
the
Yeah.
place to go.
Well, it was our family place. It was my
Yeah.
daughter's very favorite, and we went for birthdays. We went for and also like weekly.
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
hilarious because she always ordered, and I'm talking from 2 years old to 18, the diet plate, which wasn't a diet plate. It was chicken breast, fried okra, and mashed potatoes with gravy. So it
sounds
wasn't
like diet.
dietetic, but it was what it was on the
Yeah.
menu.
Call it that.
And so it was so great. This little tiny
I'm
girl
gonna be on
got,
a diet.
I
That
want the
reminds
diet
me of
plate, please.
another amazing Austin staple institution, which is Top Notch,
Yes.
and they have a diet plate or
Yeah.
something of that. And I'm like looking at it, I'm like,
Really?
I don't know, but
And
that's a
Dirt-
great place.
Dirty's
Good time.
hamburgers.
Oh yeah, of
Oh,
course.
dirty,
know.
so
I don't
fun.
think I've had it.
Counter Cafe.
I
Oh, yeah.
miss the one on Lamar.
I did too.
Yeah.
That was
It
a
such
a
good little
regular.
building, but
Yeah.
they moved to.
They're on the
just-
east side, right?
I thought there was a location off campus, like 29th.
Oh,
So
good.
29th in Guadalupe. So
All right, that's
So
not too far.
I'll unhook the burger thing. Is there
Yeah.
is there another kind of food that you guys love in Austin?
Well,
Because it's going to go in the show notes. And people
Yeah.
will be like,
yeah,
Yeah.
we're helping people
I
out
love
here.
I love Thai food,
Oh, yeah.
and we order out these days. We
Yeah.
have food delivered from all different
Yeah.
places,
Yeah.
but I love 888 also.
To Thai is
um,
Thai is probably
Oh,
my
for sure,
favorite.
Bernie.
You know what I loved recently is when you brought some of that from a party, ABBA,
ABBA,
Yeah.
Oh,
Mediterranean,
Mediterranean. That was really good.
South Congress,
We-
tasty.
Super
mentioned
tasty.
Thai. It reminds me of the place in Lakeway? Not Lakeway, Westlake. What is that? We got
Oh,
Sway?
Sway.
Sway.
Sway's great.
Sway is
Sway's-
good.
I love the
Great.
view.
Yeah, the
more
one-
new school, new Austin. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that new anymore, but
Right.
I'm still like. Oh.
But remember when it was the thing
Yeah,
to
for
go to,
sure.
when it was
Sway's-
on
Sway's
South First.
delicious. Get the eggplant
Yeah.
if you can stand it. It's very, very hot.
And the blue crab fried rice.
And
Big
East
favorite.
Side Kings is also
I
one of
eat
my
Thai
favorites.
Kitchen once a week, twice, 3 times a month. Thai Kitchen right on Guadalupe.
Yeah, that was a
I
college
used to-
favorite.
Yep, still
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Love
Thai
that
as
it's still
well.
there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Clay pit for Indian.
Oh, Clay Pit,
Still there.
absolutely.
It's wonderful.
We
food.
did that to
Yeah.
go all through COVID. It like saved us.
Yeah.
What's the name of the restaurant that's where Huts was?
Sammy's.
Sammy's.
Yeah,
We've gone there twice, and it was really, really good.
Tasty.
You know,
Very,
shout out to MMH who's
Yeah.
taking old and making
Yeah.
new, and
Yeah.
There's worse alternatives. We've talked about them. They could become chain restaurants and things like this. So
Yeah.
MMH deserves credit for trying to
It is true. It's very
preserve old
fun.
Austin by making it relevant.
Yeah.
Although
for those
Swedish
that
Hill,
don't know,
I miss the
Yeah.
SWEETIS. It's now Swedish Hill.
Oh, right.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
the little play on
That
the
was
word,
cute.
Swedish
Yeah.
Hill.
my daughter works there.
Oh
She
my gosh,
loves
it's
it.
Ah.
She
it
loves
is fantastic. Their crunchy salad, so
Yeah,
good.
the only thing that I guess the only downside is she brings too many sweets home. I'm
I
like,
bet.
Yeah,
So
right.
tasty.
I'm sure.
no. But yeah, awesome. For those that don't know,
Yeah.
in the shows, MMH's restaurant group in town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unlocking the acronym is Mormon McGuire Hospitality.
Right.
So big ups to those guys. I think they're doing good things.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
It's fun, and I love actually their West Lynn Row. Big fan of Josephine House and Jeffrey's, of course, and then across the street,
Taco
not their
Shack.
group, but Cipollina
Right.
is such a neighborhood
Yeah.
like favorite restaurant.
12th and West Lynn is an amazing institution in and
Love
of
it.
itself. The old Now's Drug, right?
Yes.
That's a place to get a burger. Is it closing? Hey,
I just saw.
Is it?
I saw the.
It
if
is.
MMH doesn't
Oh.
snatch it up, I don't know.
I saw
Oh,
the
wow.
sign
It's a great
yesterday.
spot.
yeah.
I saw the sign yesterday. It's the sign
Yeah.
outside saying selling everything.
I mean, that's a show,
very sad.
right? What the closures?
And
really
the coffee
is.
place
Yeah.
there.
The little coffee place. I can never get parking there, so I
Yeah.
just go across the street to Galaxy Cafe for my coffee.
Medici.
Medici.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Medici.
Yeah.
Delicious. Yeah.
well, that's one of my favorite places. Taco Shack.
Okay.
It's right there.
Yeah.
in that very corner. So.
Oh, Taco Flats.
Taco Flats.
Yeah.
See,
Oh, yeah,
Shack.
Taco
Shack.
Flats. Yeah.
Because I
Thanks
do
for
like Taco
correcting me.
Shack.
Taco
Thanks for correcting me.
Flats. Taco
Taco
Flats.
Flats.
Shout out for Taco Shack as well.
Yeah.
That's
Can't do tacos wrong, in my opinion.
That's right.
My boy played on the drum line for McCallum High School, and you got the,
Oh my
the
gosh.
Taco Shack Bowl that goes on
Oh.
between Anderson and McCallum.
Oh, I
It's
didn't
like
know
a
that.
big
That's so
rivalry.
fun.
So, Austin's great, isn't it?
Right? I know. Exactly. Love it.
Yeah.
I do want to bring something to switching gears just a little bit. Your first experience as a musician, you shared this story, which I thought was fascinating that we need to talk about. When you moved to Austin, when you made that first move, what was that like?
What did I say?
The Driscoll.
Oh, the
yes,
Driscoll.
the
You
Driscoll.
landed a pretty
Yeah.
sweet gig.
I
Yeah.
did.
It's a sweet gig. It's like
I did. That was amazing.
Yeah.
That's when
It's
you
Austin
know,
called you and said, "Here."
Yeah, that's when you know that you're in alignment with
Yeah.
where you should be going.
Living right. I call that.
Yeah,
Living
and
right.
and it was, I was coming out of a very difficult time. It was really hard to leave Santa Fe because I had so many close friends, and it was safe, but it wasn't safe anymore because I just had a really violent experience, and I just needed a change. But I was looking for, show me a sign, any sign, and I was here visiting one day, and I knew for a couple of years that I was going to want to leave Santa Fe even before anything happened that motivated me further, but that it was going to be hard to bring a band with me because I was used to playing with bands. So I started playing solo at La Fonda Hotel in Santa Fe so I could be independent when I left and keep working. And I was here visiting and I was thinking, what solo gig could I get? And I was walking downtown past the Driscoll and it reminded me of La Fonda as this historical building and beautiful, classy hotel. So I thought that looks nice. So I went in and the manager said, we just today decided that we were going to start having music in the
Nice.
bar and grill right
Nice.
there on 6th Street. And he said, but we're not ready to start. And I said, well, I'm not ready to move. I need a couple more months. And so we agreed on the 3rd week of June in 1982. And he said, when you come, we'll commit to 6 nights a week for 3 weeks. So I felt
gig.
very confident.
Yeah,
I was
it's
like,
amazing.
I told my parents, I got a job.
Yeah, I can
It's
pay my
3
rent.
whole weeks. But
Pay my rent for one
then
month.
when I got here, it evolved into 9 weeks. So I was there for 9 weeks, and it became an anchor, so that when I met people, they're, oh, you're a singer. Where do you play? I play at
Yeah.
Driscoll. And then it got done early enough that then I could go out and hear other bands. So I would go down to Steamboat, and there was the Monday night thing at Steamboat every Monday, the Austin All-Stars, and Uncle Walt's band, and some Nancy Griffith, whoever was playing, I could go see them and start making friends. And met my first husband, who was a musician at the time, had a band called Ernie Sky and the K-Tells. So it just evolved. At the end of the 9 weeks, I felt pretty settled here. And when I moved, I'll always be grateful to Mark Hallman, who's a studio owner here in Austin, had South Congress studio for years. And Mark and his wife offered me a bedroom in their home. So I had a place to live when I got here and a gig. And it really felt...
heal too.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I felt there were people around me that knew how big a move it was and how kind of raw I was at the time, and gave me a soft place to land, as they say.
It's amazing. And you know what? That story sounds supernatural. It sounds like sliding doors that could only have happened for you. It's not that atypical for an Austin story, how people will get around people and welcome them in, and you find places to collaborate and meet others doing what you want to do. And you know, on a prior show, Gordy Quist was on talking about that environment that was Momo's, and it led to the development of his band of Heathens, because it was just musicians helping musicians. You know, and that's
feels like there's not a competition like in maybe other cities.
How do we make this bigger, better? Together.
Yeah.
Isn't that fantastic?
And it's very live music oriented. Like now I started spending a lot of time in Nashville at one time and had publishing deals and did songwriting. And I loved learning and being a co-writer and learning about songwriting. But it's very geared towards songwriting, very geared towards the business, which is great. You know, Austin was kind of misses some of that, the labels and publishers. But it wasn't at that time as much of a live music community. And that's where your bonds really happen on stage, and where you find a band, you evolve into a band because of that. So that's why I kind of always stayed here. I never really considered a permanent move to Nashville, although I really love it and a lot of the people there.
I love hearing stories like that. It's just they're just heartwarming, because it just speaks to the vibe of Austin, which is
reminds us
community.
Yeah,
right?
we're not crazy. It really is the best city, town in the whole world.
Yes, we're in a bubble, but it's not a delusion. We're not. It really is that, because as people we've talked to who have moved away, they're like, yeah, no, you're right, it's special. Or people dying to get here, and you can't blame them. So we're welcoming them, but at the same time, we're telling them to, in the words of another guest, become Austinites as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Like behave yourself.
Behave yourself.
Yes.
Be nice.
Be nice. Exactly.
I was just thinking that out.
Right.
Yeah.
When
Let people in, you know.
Put on your blinker.
Merge.
Let them in.
Right. Oh my God.
Just drive well.
Yeah.
When I was talking about Monday nights, it was Monday Night Live, was at Steamboat on Mondays. And two of the musicians I met there were Craig Calvert and Mike Jackson, Craig is on the Swan Songs board, and they just did a Swan Songs concert a couple weeks ago. They're still good friends, and as our lives evolve, we can stay connected and take on these new projects together. And so that's a long time ago. That was 40 years ago.
Amazing.
Wow.
I don't think
You've got so many stories.
Growing up together.
Yeah, I don't think we would have said 40 years from now we'll be playing music for people while they die.
Oh man.
Well, I really appreciate you guys being on the show. This has been wonderful. One thing I did want to, before we close up, I wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the other work you worked for. The nonprofits like the Grammys, is that right?
Yeah, the Recording Academy.
Yeah, Recording Academy. Will you talk a little bit about that before we close up?
That's it's the membership organization that puts on the Grammys and whose members vote in the Grammys. And I was on the Texas chapter board. There's 12 regional chapters, and was elected to represent Texas on the national board in 2007. And I've been on there pretty much ever since. I was a trustee, and then a vice chair, and then the chair, and right now I'm chair emeritus. And it also involves a lot of philanthropic work, and that's actually, to me, that's where I got a master class in nonprofit management, right when I was starting Swan Songs. Because there I was involved in finance committees and governance and membership and staff issues and strategic planning.
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
It was
And I
shocking
get
to
to-
me
I've heard
what
of
a
it.
nonprofit expert she is being a musician.
No, it's amazing where that business
Totally.
philanthropic business mind comes together and then a legitimate, accomplished, talented musician. It's a neat package. You're a rare package there.
And it was just a great opportunity I love the people. I have so many friends now all over the country that are musicians or in the music business who I really am close with from working so closely for so many years. And then, getting to be a part of the conversation, what makes more value as a member, what education programs. I'm on the board of Music Cares, which is the 501c3 that the trustees created to provide financial assistance to music people in general that are facing a crisis. We may have some new clients after Hurricane Ian, literally after a natural disaster. MusiCares helps the music community that just had their instruments wiped out or can't work for several months. And so it's all, they all sort of weave together right now. It's finally it feels like they're coming together, especially with the national initiative for Swan Songs. There's pockets of people around the country that already know about this mission and have always cared about it. And if a community wants to start one, I have people that I can reach out to and say, can you contribute to this effort at all?
And that's huge, to be the trailblazer to them. It's less daunting. It's that feeling you had, back in
all the learnings,
05, 07,
right?
Yeah.
All
That's
start.
exactly.
She's already,
That's why we want to do this, is to
toolkit.
say we've learned so much. Here's a whole lot of basics. And then they take it and make it their own, and it reflects their community. But there's so much learning curve that we learn through experience that we can accelerate their process.
Well, I think that goes back once again to the community of Austin, because it's such a easy thing to call somebody and say, I want a cup of coffee because I want to learn this thing, and there's so many people that are just wanting to share that knowledge, and you guys are doing the same. You're doing the same thing with Swan Song, which is just amazing. Congratulations on all of it. And
thank you.
Thank you very much for doing it, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's our show for today.
Great.
Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. It was a good vibe.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow, what a great conversation. I just loved us going from all points of going from what Swan Songs does, obviously, which is a great gift, to Hut's Hamburgers at the airport.
I had the same thoughts through the conversation. I was like, wow, we're touching on some really deep stuff and really important stuff, but then much like Austin's vibe and culture, we can also, levitate out of it and go in and out and, be real and celebrate each other in Austin while still talking about such a really important mission.
Thanks again, Shannon and Christine, for doing the show today and sharing your work and insight with us. You're listening to Dan Dillard and
Mark Strube,
the co-host of Vibe Austin, and this has been a Foundry Media podcast made possible by our sponsors, Austin Title, Vista Lending, House of Strube, and Nest Financial. Once again, check out their services in the show notes. And before you go, we wanted to share an unsponsored, shameless nonprofit plug for our city. In this episode, we want to share the work, obviously, that Swan Songs is doing.
right?
Check out their site and socials for more information about how you can get involved. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Vibe Austin. Until then,
Adios.
Adios.